Today we're going on a journey through time, way back to when the world was new and people still talked right with God. We're going to hear a story about two brothers, Isaac and Ishmael. Their lives hold clues to some of the struggles we see today between Israel and many Arab countries. You might have heard grown-ups talk about conflicts in the Middle East, about wars and worries that seem to never end. But the roots of those troubles go deep, back to Abraham, the father of both Jews and Arabs. Abraham had two sons, and each son went on to become the father of very different peoples. By the end of our story, you'll see why Isaac and Ishmael drifted apart, how their families grew into nations, what God promised for their futures, and how that promise shines like a light of hope for everyone. So find a comfy spot, take a deep breath, and let's walk quietly through the pages of the book of Genesis. Imagine you're tiptoeing through a lush garden, listening to birds, and watching angels on a ladder. Ready? Let's begin with Abraham's tent under a starlit sky. Long ago, God chose a man named Abram, later called Abraham, to start a great family. God spoke to him while he camped under the stars and said, "Abram, I will make you into a great nation. Your descendants will be more numerous than the stars." Abraham believed God even though his body was old and he and his wife Sarah had no children. That promise filled his heart with wonder. Ishmael, the first son. Sarah thought she was too old to have babies, so she gave Abraham her servant girl, Hagar, to bear a child for them. Hagar's baby was Ishmael, Abraham's firstborn son. Ishmael's name means God hears, because God heard Hagar's cries when she felt scared and alone. Ishmael grew strong and adventurous. He became the father of a proud family that wandered deserts and cared for camels. Over time, they settled in places we now call parts of Arabia. Then something amazing happened. When Abraham was 100 and Sarah was 90, God said, "Sarah will bear a son. Name him Isaac." Isaac's name means laughter, because both Abraham and Sarah laughed in surprise and joy. Isaac was the child of promise, the one God had specially chosen to carry on his plan. So Abraham had two sons, Ishmael, born by human planning, and Isaac, born by God's promise. Both boys were loved, but in very different ways. As the boys grew, Ishmael and Isaac played together under Abraham's tent. At first they were friends, but as they reached their teenage years, they saw the world with different eyes, rivalry for attention. Isaac was Abraham's miracle. Sarah treasured him. Ishmael, though dear, sometimes felt jealous. He wondered, "Am I less loved?" Sarah saw Ishmael's rough teasing and worried he might hurt Isaac's place in the family. Sarah spoke to Abraham, "Send this slave and her son away. Isaac is truly your heir." Abraham felt torn. He loved Ishmael too. God told him not to worry. "Do as Sarah says. Isaac will carry my promise, but I will also make Ishmael into a great nation because he is your son." So Abraham gave Hagar and Ishmael bread and water and sent them out into the desert. It was a painful moment, a father watching two families part ways. God's care in the desert. Hagar and Ishmael wandered under hot skies until the water ran low. Ishmael wept. Hagar thought he might die. God heard Ishmael's cries and sent an angel. The angel showed her a well of water. Ishmael drank and lived. God promised, "I will make Ishmael a great nation too." Ishmael grew up in the wilderness, strong and free. He became the father of 12 princes whose descendants spread across the desert lands, today's Arab nations. From Ishmael came the Arab peoples. From Isaac came the Hebrew people, Jews. Over centuries, each family grew into a nation with its own customs, languages, and hopes. Isaac's line, the Jewish nation. Isaac married Rebekah and had 2 sons, Jacob and Esau. Jacob's name was changed to Israel, and his 12 sons became the 12 tribes of Israel. They lived in Egypt, then wandered in the desert, and finally settled in the Promised Land. Their history, filled with kings and prophets, is written in the rest of the Bible. Ishmael's line. The Arab nations. Ishmael's children settled near Egypt and across Arabia. They became skilled in desert life, raising camels, trading caravans, and building oases along dusty trade routes. Over thousands of years, their descendants formed kingdoms and empires that we now call Arab. Friendly borders or not. Sometimes the people of Israel and the people of Ishmael lived side by side in peace, trading goods, sharing water wells, and intermarrying. Other times, they fought over land, water, and power. Generations passed, but the memory of Isaac and Ishmael's rivalry in the tent of Abraham lingered like a quiet echo in the desert wind. As Israel and the Arab nations grew, God sent prophets, messengers like Moses, David, and Isaiah, to keep his people in the right path. The Arabs, meanwhile, received prophets too, culminating in Muhammad in the 600s AD. Shared roots, different paths. Both Jews and Arabs trace their lineage back to Abraham. Both honor holy books, Jews the Torah, Muslims the Quran. Both await God's final rescue. Jews look for the Messiah, Muslims look for the Day of Judgment. Yet different choices, different kings, and different empires created walls of misunderstanding. Stories of wars, betrayals, and broken alliances piled up like stones in a fence between neighbors. Jerusalem, the shared city. One of the biggest flashpoints is Jerusalem, the city where Abraham offered Isaac, a test of faith, where King Solomon built the Jewish temple, and where Muhammad is said to have ascended to heaven. Each faith sees Jerusalem as holy ground. When one group builds, the other fears losing access. Since ancient times, armies have marched on Jerusalem. Today, political disputes over borders, water, and holy sites carry echoes of Isaac and Ishmael's divide. Even though Isaac and Ishmael's families have clashed, God's story does not end in endless war. The Bible and the Quran both carry promises of peace and justice. God's promise to Abraham. Remember God's promise to Abraham? Through Isaac will come the family that blesses the world. Through Ishmael I will make a great nation too. God did not say, I will only bless Isaac. He promised blessings for both sons, blessings for every person who calls on Abraham's God. A future of peace. The Bible looks forward to a day when swords turn into plowshares, when nations learn war no more. Isaiah chapter 2 verse 4. The Quran teaches that paradise awaits those who do right. Both visions speak of a time when all people will walk together in harmony. Our part in the story. God invites each of us, Jew, Arab, or anyone, to be a peacemaker. Learn each other's stories with respect. Reach out with kindness, even across the hardest barriers. Pray or hope for the day when love overcomes fear. Dear friend, the story of Isaac and Ishmael began with laughter and tears, promise and pain. Their children have known both friendship and conflict for thousands of years. But the same God who guided Abraham under the stars longs for us all to share a single promise of peace. When you hear news of war or fear, remember this: 2 boys in the desert tent chose different paths, but God's heart holds both paths in His hands. There is room by the well for Hagar's tears, and room by the altar for Isaac's laughter. So let us be helpers of that promise. A smile across a table, a shared cup of water, a hand raised in blessing. These small lights can chase away great shadows. Thank you for listening. May your heart carry a bit of both laughter and faith, and may you help build bridges where once there were walls.